Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss the featured news for 20th August 2021, which is on a very important topic making rounds around the globe, the taking of power in Afghanistan by Taliban. And we will also cover how it relates to India, because India has got significant investment, trade and infrastructure ties with Afghanistan. Right? We will also discuss a brief history of Afghanistan in the last 50 years. We have seen how very swiftly and very smoothly Taliban has taken control of the whole Afghanistan region in the last 8 weeks, only 8 weeks. So, May 5, this was the situation. The pale yellow part was the part where Taliban had full control, but the less yellow part and the white part were not controlled by it. But after USA has started to withdraw its forces, we have seen how Taliban has gained control. And August 15th is the day when Kabul was overtaken by Taliban and the government forces could not do anything, right? So we have seen those situations where the defense forces are held helpless, right? Not only defense forces, what about their equipments, arms, ammunition, gadgets? They are all left helpless, right? They are also at the hands of Taliban right now. Also, we have seen the situation at Kabul airport, such helpless situation, people trying to just catch hold of any flight, right? Also trying to hold to the landing gears of the plane and later dying in vain, right? We have seen how President of Afghanistan has fled the nation and he has moved to UAE, right? So this is the situation in Afghanistan. This time Taliban has taken control very swiftly and smoothly. It has not usurped power, it has not declared sudden events. It has been very smooth, and this time the bloodshed also has been less. So this makes Taliban gain more legitimacy in the ground. And in this context, we will understand what led to this situation. What led to this situation in the beginning. So this brings us to a brief history of Afghanistan. Now, until 1970s, Afghanistan was a region of empire. There was a king. And as usual, what are kings about? About lavishness, about being spendthrift. And therefore, the people were not happy. People wanted some change in regime. People wanted more employment. People wanted peace. People wanted democracy and development. And this is where the Cold War also put its feet in the region of Afghanistan. So USSR started to fund the locals, the people local there, and also started to influence the people through its communism ideology. America was there with its capitalism ideology, but since USSR was close by, it had its more influence on the locals, and the locals, they instituted a party which is called as People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan, right? And this party usurped power in Afghanistan, and there was democracy established in Afghanistan, and this was de facto ruled by USSR. Now, these people, USSR and PDP people, started to persecute the elites, the elite traditional rulers and the people of the faith there. Why? Because communism ideology also goes against religion, right? So they started to persecute people, traditional elites who would follow Islam religion. And this is where USA came into being. USA assisted by Pakistan. So these two countries, what they did was they started to fund a force called as Mujahideen force, and Mujahideen traditionally means defenders of faith. So they started to defend their faith, their religion against PDPA, against those which were funded by USSR. So there was an impact of Cold War in this region as well. And who won eventually? It was Mujahideens who won. So 1979 to around 1980s, right? 79 to late 80s to around 1990, there was an immense war, local war in Afghanistan region. And at the end, USA won. Pakistan won and Mujahideens won, and USSR had to retreat. And also remember, do relate it to USSR breakdown into different territories, right? So Federal Association broke down of USSR, and that is why it also had to withdraw from Afghanistan. Now, how did Taliban get formed then? So in 1990s, these Mujahideens, they had arms, they had finances, they had funds, they had some support. What would they do? So they instituted this political body called as Taliban. Taliban literally means student, a learner. And the main idea was to have two important things in Afghanistan. One, peace and stability. So they wanted power, peace and stability. This is one. And the second one is they wanted to institute Sharia law in Afghanistan. So Sharia law and its very, very fundamentalist interpretation. So this is what Taliban was about. It gained power in 1996. So 1992 to 1996, there were a lot of civil wars. But after that, Taliban gained power in 1996. They ruled over Afghanistan from 1996 to 2001. Why specifically 2001? Important event happened in 2001. It was 9/11, right? The attack in New York happened. The World Trade Centers, they came down, and this was this was claimed by Al-Qaeda, a terrorist group which had associations with Taliban. Taliban did not only have association with Al-Qaeda, Taliban also has associations with Jaish-e-Mohammed, with Lashkar-e-Toiba. Now these are the two terrorist groups which keep on committing terrorist activities in India. Also, Taliban has its associations with Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab in which country? This is in Somalia. And then we have Boko Haram. They are nothing but different factions of the same group, funding each other, helping each other. Also funding through Afghanistan region also. Why? Because Afghanistan region is the one which is majorly cultivating the poppy seeds. One of the most important regions in the world cultivating poppy, right? So what did America do then? 2001, America started its war against terror and established democracy in Afghanistan. So 2001, it removed Taliban from power in Afghanistan. This is one thing. 2011, it also killed Osama bin Laden, but America was still there trying to institutionalize democracy in Afghanistan. But it was war-weary. Why? Because Taliban was also not giving up. Taliban has had de facto control of Afghanistan for more than 50% of the region, right? Also, the local warlords, the way Afghanistan functions is completely different from how USA was trained to fight wars. So America had to finally retreat. While America started to retreat, Taliban started to gain control again. So there were civil wars all the time, and now we have seen the civil war has culminated in recapture of Afghanistan by Taliban. So this is the quick history. They want Sharia law. And what are the regional interests? What are the interests of countries like Pakistan, China, India, Iran, Russia, etc.? They all have different interests. And largely it is not around the care development of the people. All these countries primarily focus at themselves first and then the regional interest. So let us get back to understand whether it is a crisis or opportunity for people. First of all, Afghanistan has been a graveyard of empires. We have seen how USSR had to retreat. We have seen now how US has retreated. We have also known how Alexander retreated from Afghanistan region. So the terrain of Afghanistan, it is a rocky desert terrain. The guerrilla warfare being fought, this is not what Navy SEALs are usually trained to do. India also fights war, but it is largely mountain warfare, not guerrilla, right? There is tribal supremacy. There are various tribal groups, Pashtuns, and then we have Turks, Kazakh, Uzbeks. There's so many groups and they all have their own principles, right? So regional autonomy is something that they strongly care about. And this is what, if any country has to gain control, supremacy, or even trade with Afghanistan, they have to take care of all these important factors. It is also said that the ruler of Kabul has a huge influence on India, because all the annexations and all the conquests against India, many of them have happened through Kabul. So in the ancient times, Muhammad Ghori, Muhammad Ghazni, and then we had Nadir Shah later, right? Even Alexander before, they all formed their armies, they all established their armies around Kabul region before they could attack India. So therefore, it becomes very important to know who is the ruler of Indus region. So in older times, if it was in favor of India, this ruler, it would be good for India, right? They would be able to counter, right, the attack from Kabul. But if it is Pakistan, which is there in the modern times, the kingdom in the Indus region, then we have to carefully tread this path, because we will have to make friends with the one in Kabul, right? Otherwise, we will see increased attacks from Kabul area, and this is what we have seen. Jaish-e-Mohammed attacks, Lashkar-e-Toiba attacks. They are happening from Kabul region in Indus. Now, you also see 1990s was the time when India had a lot of terrorism, right? Why 90s specifically? Because this was the time when Taliban gained supremacy and power in Afghanistan. And it was also assisted by Pakistan to attack India, right? So this is the quick background to it. China and Taliban, right? China has a lot to gain from Afghanistan, because if China has its influence on Afghanistan, it can actually spread its economic corridor. Right? China-Pakistan economic corridor. China will have a lot to gain from Afghanistan, because it also extracts a lot of mineral resources from this region, right? But Taliban may not be very happy with China, because China itself persecutes Muslims, Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang province. This is one. And Taliban also will have the memory of the communist regime that was prevalent in Afghanistan itself. China also claims to be communist, right? So this is one thing. But China has tried to maintain some diplomatic talks with Taliban already. This is one, China. Second, Pakistan. Now, Pakistan has always assisted Taliban. However, Taliban will try to grow over grow beyond Pakistan's influence, because Taliban also will try to establish nationality, right? And that is the time when Pakistan influence will get reduced on Taliban, right? Right now, Pakistan has appreciated Taliban very much. Under quotes, Pakistan says Taliban has freed Afghanistan from the shackles of slavery. This is what Pakistan says. But the main idea for Taliban does not lie in force. It lies in moderation, because force has been used to acquire power. But to able to govern the territory, they need to have moderation, because only through moderation, they'll be able to bring development projects in Afghanistan. So health, peace, security for people, education, employment, these are facets of moderation, right? And therefore, Taliban will have a tough time controlling the religious ideology and the ideology of governance, right? And this is where India must play its part. India must wait for how Taliban reacts to Pakistan and China, because both these countries do not want India's influence. And if Taliban is not as against India, then India can extend its diplomacy, something India could not do during the time of 1996. So India did not have any diplomatic contact with Taliban, with Afghanistan, during the time of 1996. India has already spoken in United Nations that some kind of arrangement can be worked with Taliban. Some kind of arrangement. Now, what is arrangement? This is what is diplomacy, right? Now, after having understood a brief background, we should get into how India is related to Afghanistan. Now, India has been investing in Afghanistan. So infrastructure spendings, we have spent over $3 billion, that is around 20,000 crore rupees in present capacity, right? We have built capacity in Afghanistan. We have built institutions in Afghanistan, parliament. We have built Salwa Dam. We have also built so many friendship dams with them, right? We have started to train the Afghan forces. Also, private investment, spurred by the government investment, has come private investment in Afghanistan from India, right? We have started to develop them economically. What about the influence of cinema? We have influence of cinema over there. We have also soft power influence through cricket, right? Connectivity, regional connectivity to the Central Asian countries, not only Afghanistan, but Central Asian countries through Afghanistan. These are the pet projects India has had in Afghanistan. So there is a huge implication of the establishment of Taliban in Afghanistan, right? And this is where the most fundamental things play, right? So one is soft power influence. India has had so much soft power influence, on the basis of which we have influenced Afghanistan development, right? Strategic partnership. India wants to bring a partner in Afghanistan. Why? Because if we do not have a partner in Afghanistan, the whole region will be against India. There's already an enemy in Pakistan, right? So we need to have partnership, right? Strategic partnership with Afghanistan. Also, security implications. This region is very important for the security of India, as I said, also to extend in Central Asian region. So these are the various facets because of which India is deeply impacted by presence of Taliban in Afghanistan. Now, coming back to the article says that India has had $3 billion plus investment, development contribution for Afghanistan. India celebrates cultural relationships. We have cinema, sports, extension, so many ways, folk music, cultural weekend, dance festivals between both the countries. India has had economic development in the form of high impact community development programs, just like what India runs. In India, aspirational district programs, India also associates itself with program in Afghanistan as well. We have strategic partnership for development in the Central Asia region also, right? So there is so much. We have also built dams. So Shahtoot Dam, the Friendship Dam, Salma Dam, right? So you have to mention these dams about relationships between India and Afghanistan. So these are the pillars on which India has had its relationship with Afghanistan, right? So I have quickly mentioned all the kind of relationship they have had, right? Now, this is a new phase of relationship between India and Afghanistan, because India has not had any diplomatic presence even right now. India brought its diplomats back to the country. Now, India needs to have a workable balance, right? Taliban has already said that they are ready to talk to all the countries. They will not be committing crime and they will not be having violence against the diplomats. But the workable balance is what has to be ensured in the form of Taliban walking the talk. Taliban is speaking about it, but will they actually assure? Because this is not something happened in 1996. And therefore, we must look at how India must tread now. So, India has got threats to investment. Yes, it has, because all the work happening in Afghanistan has stopped abruptly, right? What about safety of Indian nationals? They have to be brought back, and they have been brought back, right? International terror groups, as I mentioned, Pakistan will be aided. Al-Qaeda, Lashkar-e-Toiba, Haqqani network, already in power. Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, right? International drug trade, one of the hubs is Afghanistan. So drug triangle and drug quadrilateral, you must research on these, right? The regional trade by Afghanistan is through air route, because Afghanistan is a landlocked country and these times are the times for evacuation, but therefore the trade has stopped, right? So geopolitical control by Afghanistan, by China, Pakistan, Russia, Iran, all these countries are trying to gain supremacy with legitimizing Taliban, right? Now, way forward, the situation here for India is to wait and watch, because India is totally out of the scenario. No diplomatic contact, no contacts with Afghanistan. In fact, the leaders, the opposition leaders in Afghanistan, they have also gone to Pakistan. They went and met the Premier of Pakistan to try to solve the issue. So India has to carefully wait and watch, see how Taliban reacts or responds to Pakistan, see how it reacts and responds to China, and India will have its own time. So right now, wait and watch. India needs to have broader diplomatic engagement. So not only Taliban, India must include Russia. India must include Iran, because all these countries want regional security and peace. Because if Taliban gains extremism in the region, it will spill. It will spill to nearby areas in Iran. It will spill to nearby areas in Russia, because in Russia also we have Chechnya Muslims also creating issues. So Russia, along with China, Iran, all of them, India also wants security. So India needs to have broader diplomatic engagements, right? Now, this is where we come to the conclusion of the article. The conclusion says that Taliban needs to walk its talk of peace, development, security for the people. Now, this is where all the countries outside Afghanistan are talking of. But what about the locals? What about the women? What about the children? What about the education of the locals? What about employment? These are the questions which are left unanswered right now. We have spoken about the relationship between India and Afghanistan. We also spoke about what was the brief history of the last 50 years in Afghanistan. And now, all you got to do is to take 30 seconds off, pause this video, and think about what all engagements India has had with Afghanistan, right? You should also look at the context in which Afghanistan power has been gained by Taliban, the whole context of the last 50 years, right? And after that, you can attempt this question. The question says, discuss the various elements of India-Afghan relationship. What can be the possible impacts on India due to Taliban government in Afghanistan? If you like this effort by us, if you like this video, shower some love on us through likes, comments, shares, and if you subscribe to this channel, you will receive timely updates on the videos. Thanks for watching.